Hello everybody and welcome. As the little picture showed, we're going to be painting with filters using layer masks, and we're also going to incorporate smart objects. So let's get busy with that. One of my favorite things has always been taking images that I kind of like and running filters on them and then put layer masks on to make the images look more painted, more unique, more desirable to the eye of the beholder, so to speak. So I've got this image that we're going to work on, and just so you can see what takes place. And I'm going to make a few copies of this background layer, so I'm just going to do a Control J a few times here so we can have multiple layers. And I'm going to turn off all of them but the very first copy that we made. Highlight that layer. And now I'm going to go up to Filter. I'm going to go down to Oil Paint. And hopefully I can get this thing to fit in our recording area. And let's make this smaller. If I zoom in after getting it smaller, you can see the pattern that's there caused by the oil paint filter, and as we change the sliders, this also changes. So you can kind of find what you prefer to use, and I'm just going to use something in that area just to get a feel for it. We can make this less clean, so to speak, also. But I'm going to put a little bit of twist in it and click OK. Takes a couple of seconds to run. So now if I zoom in, you'll see that we have that effect on this layer. Let me zoom back out, Control 0. And now I'm going to select layer 1 and turn that eyeball on, and I'm going to go up to the filter gallery. So filter gallery, and again we got a giant dialog box. Here we go. I need to make my image smaller. It's there, but I actually like it this size. I'm going to Control minus a couple of times just to see what I've got. This is one of the filters that I like to use, the Watercolor filter, and again we can control some things about the way this looks by changing the sliders. I don't really like to mess with texture. I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. Now let's blow this up a little bit so you can see there's the paint effect that's on here. But now we can't see this because it's covered up with the layer above it. But I'm going to go even further. I'm going to come up here to this layer, click the eyeball on, and I'm going to go to filter gallery again, and let's try Control minus for one, and I'm going to move this over to have a look at a different place and try the Smudge Stick. And let's go, and you can see the filter running over here as I make these changes. Some of them are faster than others. Not really seeing what I want to see. I want this edge to be kind of bright, scratchy looking. So let's see here. Don't want to do that. We'll just experiment and see what it looks like with this. So I'm going to click OK. So now we have, let's move up here, and I'm holding down the space bar to travel around a little bit here. Now let's turn that all off except for this layer, and here's what it looks like without this last filter. This was the Smudge Stick. Okay. So that's what that one did. Let's look at it a little bit more. Sorry about that, I'm on the wrong layer. Alright, I want to see what's on this layer. So this is more of the watercolor look, and this one was the oil. So change these real quick. And I don't have to have this effect completely on everything. If I want the underneath to show through, which looks like that, all I have to do is put a quick mask or a mask on here, a layer mask, and I can just have the swirl effect, the oil effect, on just the areas that I want to have it on. But first I'm going to go up here to the top, turn that on, and I'm going to switch what's on top here, and here's what I'm going to do. I want to see what watercolor looks like if I change the blend mode. Here's where these effects really come in and have a cool look to them. So I'm going to go down to overlay, and what that does is blend the watercolor layer here with the smudge stick layer. So if I turn that off and on, you can see it really bumped the contrast, and you see the scratchy faded area has really now come alive. So if I turn that off or turn this off, you can see the difference that it made. Now we also have the option to say, okay, overlay, let's drop the opacity of that layer a little bit, so that lightens it back up again. Well, we can also go down to Smudge Stick and change its blend mode, so we can change it to whichever one we want. Now you really see those highlights, the scratchy edges I call it, on the oil. And let's just see if we can even see any oil coming out of here. So if we go like that, we see the oil. Can't really tell the oil's there in that one. We can see it through looking at the watercolor and through that. So here's what we need to do. If we want to see the watercolor effect, or the oil effect, we can just simply mask this a little bit, and let's go, and we can also mask the oil and get back to the the background, the original, if we want to. So I'm going to work on over here first. That's way too big. And let's go up here to watercolor and put on a quick mask. Come down to Smudge Stick, quick mask, oil, quick mask. And I'm going to go over here and paint, and this should be black over white, so just hit D to bring up the default colors, X to bring up the black, and let's just see what we get. I am on the wrong layer. I want it to be up here. So you can see that it's lightening this up a little bit in here. We can actually do it quicker if we run this way. Sorry about that. And usually I don't have this on 100%, but for the sake of time, I want to bring that back all the way. And then I can go in here and do the same thing on the Smudge Stick. And look how much is coming back off of it. So this is really one I don't want to come back that quickly, right? So I'm Control Z that, and I'm going to drop the opacity a bit slower, and I'm Control minus here, and still that's coming back way too fast. So let's knock it down to 16% and see what it does. That's better. If you go back over this, it keeps erasing even more of that. So once you get to where you want, don't go any further, or you can just go ahead and paint with the white and start bringing it back again. Okay, same thing applies over here. Let's go over here and paint just a little bit. Go down here and over here. Now we're only 16% here. Let's run it up. And it's 100% there. It's 100% there. So let's go here and here. So that's just going to be a dark area, but we can certainly get that lighter. Got to paint with black, not white, so press X here. Now you see it coming through. And we can bring some of that wood back. Let's bring that back a little bit slowly, a little bit more slowly. Okay. And we can go over here. Let's see what we can do here. Bring some of that back. Maybe some of that roof. The key is just you have total control over everything that's in here. So you can go as far and as fast as you want to go. And I want some of that rippling to appear in the flag. Looks like I have some, but how am I going to make that show? The ripples down here, the oil. So let's go on this layer first, and we'll make that a little bit see-through. A little bit more. Now we're starting to see the ripple effect, so to speak, come out. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. You see the ripples there. They're just barely there. You barely see them. So you can keep going over this, and we can certainly make it a lot faster. Now you can really see the ripples in there. See it? So you have total control over how much of that is actually going to show simply by painting on these layer masks. Now I came back too fast there, so I'm going to lower that opacity again. I've got some of the main stuff right where I want it. That's good. That's good. So let's go back over here. Just bring that up a little bit. Let's zoom in. And let's see if we can get some of the swirlies in here, the oil paint. Don't want to bring it back too fast, but it's in there. If we turn that off, you don't see it at all. Turn those back on. And then let's make the brush smaller with the left bracket key. And we can go in there and just lighten up several places. Let's go back over here and paint that mask a little bit, paint this a little bit so we don't have jet black here. That was all caused by the fact that these things are on the overlay mode. Now also, and I've told you hopefully before, that all these blend modes do different things. So let's go back up to the top, and we can switch that to color. And you see that lightened it up some. All of these can be changed to different blend modes, and they're all going to have different effects. Some of them not so good. But I think overlay, let's try color. That really didn't work. So experiment with those and see if you can find something that works. Soft light looks kind of nice. Now let's go on to another one. You've seen what those can do. We're going to go heavier. Don't know why my computer is making that fun sound. You see the oil painting filter here quite a bit. If we turn that back to white, paint with the brush. Need to be right on that. Can't get my mouse to work. I have to have those layers turned on for it all to be seen, but if we turn off these two, you really see the swirly that's caused by the oil. And if you want to see some of the background come back in, we paint on the oil layer with black. We'll turn that over there to black. And let's change this to around 50%. So now I'm painting some of the texture back in. There we go. And some of the swirl is there as well. And I can do the same thing here. Bring some of the original background layer back out. You see the oil kind of disappeared there. Switch it back to white with the X key, and the swirly oil comes back. So you have total control over all those things. Let's move on to a different image. This is the grist mill, Bollinger Mills grist mill, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to create a few extra layers. Just Control J 3 times here, so we've got 4 layers. Now the problem with this image is that, yeah, we've got those 4 or those 3 different layers that are we ran the filters on, and we got the smudge stick and so forth, but I can't click on this and go back and change anything about that filter. It simply won't go back and let me adjust that. I can only control the layer mass. So we're going to tackle that in just a minute. So here we got the Bollinger Mills image, and we're going to run some different filters this time. I'm going to put oil on top this time. Let's make this larger. I'm holding down the Control key and pressing the space bar and making it larger. Now I'm just using the space bar, click and drag. And let's go to filter, the filter gallery. Actually, let's go to oil paint. I'm going to put the oil in there first. And you see what it's got, what it's done. Notice the curves going kind of crazy there at the rounded edges. This filter is updating pretty quickly. If you watch over there, you see how that works. And the shine is what really makes the 3D thing happen. Bristle detail changes it a little, and the scale changes things a lot. And we're just going to go with that. Alright, let's click OK. Alright, now you see very quickly the difference. Now let's go to the next layer, and we're going to name this one oil. And let's go up to filter, filter gallery, and let's try underpainting, which is another one of my favorites. Let's go and look at what that looks like. So totally looks like a watercolor extreme, and we can change the brush size and all that stuff. You see it rendering out. Again, we'll render it going the other way. This is really simplifying an image, which a lot of the watercolors are simplified, meaning detail is really gone. Now here, I'm going to blow that up. We have detail back. So I'm going to just go to where we don't have very much detail, and I'm going to click OK. So now you see we've got that on top. We've got the underpainting, was it? Let me go up here again. to the filter gallery, and yes, that was underpainting. Okay, so let's rename that. Alright, now let's go to the actual watercolor. On the first layer, filter gallery and watercolor, and let's move this so we can see here. Make that smaller, control minus, and it, it's looking fairly good. Let's look at these edges here so we can really see. You see the engine is running. That's too bad. And let's just say that's fantastic. So now we have this layer on top of that, and this is the top layer. So again, we can make changes by changing the blend mode. So let's try darken. So now we have the layer underneath interacting. Let's go back to normal so you can see what it did look like. And then darken. So that's picking up some of this layer. See, those jaggedy edges are now showing through, like right in here and here. So some over here. See a little bit of brickwork here. Alright, what happens if we change underpainting? Then we did that one to darken. Let's try underpainting to darken and see what it does. So now we're seeing all three layers through here. Let's make this smaller. So you see the oil paint, a lot of it in the sky, right? And let's move it on down here, and we probably, we see it in the road a lot. And we got big time texture going on the building. Control minus to zoom out a little bit. So here's the other thing that we can certainly do. We've got the oil up there. We can drop the opacity of the oil, and so it starts going away. But let's leave it at 100% for now and go ahead and click on the layer mask. So select that one, layer mask there, layer mask there, layer mask. And you say, well, this is a lot of trouble to go to get an image right. Well, think about what watercolor artists do when they put a painting together, or an oil artist, and so on. They are doing lots and lots of work, and they can't afford to mess up very, very much, or they got to start all over. We can experiment till the cows come home, so to speak. So let's go up here to oil, and if we paint with black, D to get the default colors, remember, and we want black on top, click on a brush, and we want to paint up here so the layer underneath, right here, the underpainting layer, is showing through. We don't have to get rid of all that. Sometimes it looks very cool. Sorry about that. It looks very cool to leave a little bit. And we can take it out of the wall here too, but the road is particularly too texturized. Now you notice there are places in the grass that are darker and kind of strange looking. Well, that's probably coming from right here. See the spots, or it could be from this. Let's see. Yeah. So let's go over and paint in this particular layer on this layer mask. We're at only 47%, and I'm just painting a little bit. We're trying to make this look like a painting. So let's kind of tone some of that down. We can lighten up some of this and decrease the oil up here. And we can use a big brush if we just want to really not have the oil effect much in the sky. And you obviously have control over how far that goes. And it may be that on the tree you don't want the, let me make that smaller. Maybe you don't want that watercolor effect, you want to see the oil. So I'm going to disable the layer mask there and there. And if I turn off I don't need to turn these off. I need to turn these eyeballs off so you can see the swirly effect that the oil filter did on the trees, right? That's on all the trees. Well, if I want to decrease that oil effect, I can also paint on the trees a little bit and bring back some of that other. We want to really kill it over in the clouds. Don't have to. But my point with this demonstration is we have control over all these layers. And we can make this thing look however we want. Let me bring that up again. As we mess with these different layers, we're letting stuff underneath show through. Turn these other things back on. So the black, a lot of it's coming from this layer. So if you tone this down and go over some of that, you can really see the paint oil filter on that awning. See how the bars and the windows pop right back out when we run that? So it doesn't hurt to experiment, because remember, if it gets, we undid so much stuff that now I don't really like it, well, we just switch colors and we paint it right back in again. We allow that texture to show back through, where you've got it all on these different layers. So let's say we want to hide some of the underpainting. Switch back to black, and that's letting more of layer 1 show through, or it lets more of the background layer show through. Let's turn that off and see if we paint there. It's this layer that's coming through, because this one's turned off, and so it's letting us see all the way down to the background layer. But I really like the idea of taking some of that back. Just, it's kind of a sensory overload on the texture there. And like I said, you can also take this back, especially if it's gone too dark and you're losing all your detail. You can paint up in there and get some of that light back in those black areas. See that? You just have to experiment to see which one's going to help you bring that back and which one's not. Okay, well, let's see about getting some of this down. Oh, we're too far down on that. Now see, we're letting the oil from up here show through. And I think I've gone too far, so I'm switching to white, and I can bring that back in. Probably need to change the opacity back down as I do, because we want to really control that. Hopefully this is sinking in and you find it useful. Let's go on to a third, but this time we're going to do something a little bit different. All I have to do is find it. Okay, here is the Burfordville Community Club, and this is right by the grist mill also. And there's one other, the old mill store. Let's bring this up a little bit. This is a great looking little store to experiment with. Now we've been playing with these filters, and we can't go back and adjust the filters once we've made them. So we're going to do things a little bit differently this time. Let's do the Control J's to have our layers, and you can do all the layers you want. You just come to a point of diminishing returns after a while, though, and the layers start conflicting with each other, and you can't even tell what you've got. So this is what I like to work with, is 3 additional layers. So right now I'm going to go up to Filter, and I'm going to go down to Convert for Smart Filters. And then it comes up with this dialog box. To enable re-editable smart filters, the selected layer will be converted into a smart object. And you can click this to don't show that again. But we're going to leave it on. Now notice the icon over here looks, let me change that a little bit. The icon looks a little bit different now. Got a little icon down here in the bottom of this thumbnail. Let's do it on this layer. Filter. Convert for smart layer filters. Same thing here. Filter, convert for smart filters. Okay. Now what this is going to allow us to do is when we run a filter, it's going to allow us to go back at any time and change the settings on the filter or change the filter completely. And I love that. So here we go. First layer, we're going to just go up here and go to Filter, Filter Gallery, and let's get, I don't really care for some of these. You just kind of have to look at stuff, and now that really simplified things, didn't it? Let's see. Let's bring it back to right in there. Everything is really simplified, right? So let's click OK. So now we've got this one. If we turn that off, you see how much that simplified it. And if I don't like this setting, I go right here in my layers palette where it says Filter Gallery, double click that, and I can go back and change that to palette knife. So now we got the palette knife effect. Go back over here and click on Filter Gallery again, and back to sponge. Don't like that. Paint daubs. Looks pretty cool. Alright, now let's go on to the next one. And I can turn this little arrow right here and sandwich that back up. Alright, I can turn that anytime I want to. Alright, let's go to this layer and run a different filter. Filter, Filter Gallery, and let's go to brush strokes and see what we got. Sprayed strokes, what's that look like? Kind of like trash. Spatter? No. Angled strokes. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Let's go with that for now. Remember, we can change it whenever we want. I'm going to hide that, go to this layer, and let's do the oil paint. Don't have to. We can go, let's see, sketch. Does all these wonderful things. There's lots of variables here that we can do. Distort, the glass effect, ocean ripple, which, you know, got to remember there's lots of stuff you can do with these things. We can really make that heavy or much lighter. Let's just go with that. Alright, let's collapse this one so we just have the 4 icons, and I'm going to go up here now and change the mode, and let's just see what Darken looks like. Whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. Let's undo that. Let's go back to normal, come back to layer 1 and go to Darken. Now you can see why I paused so much, because I didn't see any effect take place. Because when these blend modes are in effect, it really changes things. We already got a cool look going. Let's change the blend mode to this. So totally different look altogether. Here's the original. Here's what we got right now. Let's change this blend mode. So we've incorporated all 3 of these changes, all 3 of these items into this look. And let's just blow this up a little bit. And we've got a kind of a neat thing going on. And remember, we can restore this as much as we want to. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to the small icons. And I'm going to, that may be too small for even my eyes. And I'm going to click on each one of these and put a layer mask on. So the little square donut, layer mask here, and a layer mask here. And I need to paint with gray, or sorry, with black, to reveal what's underneath. What's underneath is this layer, right? So turn on a brush, make sure it's black, and then let's change that to 100% so we can get immediate feedback here. So that's all the way back to the original. It sees through here to this layer lets you see through this layer layer is letting you see through all the way to the bottom, the original. So if I want to bring this back, let's switch to white, and now the opacity will switch it to around 40%, and see, got a little bit of this layer here, a little bit from that layer back, and did the old simplify thing there. And we can do the same thing painting down through here to see what effects we get. Let's see what happens up here. We're painting with white, so nothing's happening. Let's try it again. Paint there, paint there, paint there. So we're going back to the original. Let's go up here. Paint. 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 So that's going back to the original. Not a lot of changes there. What about this flower? Let's really zoom in. Let go of that. Saw a little bit of change there, I think. A little bit more of a change. But you have to determine, you know, what's going to look the best. Still got some effects on there, the filter, right? So we can, and I should have marked, you know, what filter it was that was changing this and making this hatching, streaking sort of thing, so I could better control that. Let's just see what we can do with some of these windows here. So we made a pretty big difference in that window. But hopefully you're getting the idea, because watch what happens. Let's see. Let's go click on this little down arrow to bring this up. I'm going to change this filter gallery. And right now it's paint daubs. I'm going to go to brush strokes and see what that does. Click OK. See, we were able to change that so completely, right? So we can let some of the others show back through, but we don't have to get rid of all of it. It's a beautiful thing what we can do with layers, layer filters, and smart objects. And we now have the smart filters, and we can actually paint on these smart filters as masks as well. We don't even need these. I could have not created those, as a matter of fact. So let's go to our next image, and this time with our community center Community Club, I'm going to do the Control J to make extra layers, and I'm going to go up here and say Convert to Smart Filter. On each one of these, and this time instead of making a layer mask, we're going to use the layer mask that we get when we run our filter. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go click on this one, and I'm going to go to the oil paint, and this has really got that oil thing going on, so let's just click OK. So now we have a mask that's already built in. We don't have to create the one like I did a while ago. So let's just use this one. And right off the bat, let's paint with black and see what we can bring back from the original. Let's zoom in on some of this here. See how that's bringing that back? So you can control how far it comes back and how fast it comes back. Paint up there, get rid of a little bit of that. Didn't mean to hit the eyedropper. So a lot of swirly going on over here. If I just bring it back a little bit, I think that makes things make a little more sense and a little more attractive. A little bit of it goes a long way. Now the other thing is that we can do is change that blend mode. Alright, now it's interacting with the bottom. You still see the swirls in there from the oil filter, right? We don't have to use that. We can use multiply and really make it dark, and actually it's pretty attractive, and we can change the opacity of that as well. Let's zoom back in, say up in here. And it's really got that, you know, swirl thing going from the oil filter, so we can mask that a little bit and bring the other back. And the door. And let's go find another filter. Let's go down here and filter gallery. Don't like that one at all. Stylize, I don't think we want to go with glowing edges, but I wanted you to see it. Sometimes water paper has a nice effect, so let's go ahead and plug that one in. And you see what we've got. And again, we can bring back what we want to, just use it intermittently in the image, and we can also change the blend mode here, and you can still see that cross hatching thing going on. Let's try overlay. That's strange too. Try color. Don't like that. Screen, too light. That's kind of a nice effect right there. And we can change the opacity if we've gone too far. I like the, let's see, let's turn this on. That's the oil. Ah, yes. Change the opacity of that way back when. Darken brings that up a little bit. I like the multiply. I like it dark like that. But do you see that we've really heavy-handed the wall in there? Let me paint with white. Bring the opacity up. So I really want all of the oil filter to show right now. So let's do an X and see how quickly that goes away. Undo that with Control Z. And we still haven't put another filter down here yet, so let's go to Filter. Got to be on a layer that's on. This one probably needs to be, have the layer mode changed. Bump the contrast a little bit, didn't it? Let's go down here and do Filter, Filter Gallery, and let's go back up to Brush Strokes. No, let's go Artistic and Underpainting. So this one's pretty dramatic. Let's move it to the top, and let's change the blend mode. So now we've got a lot of filters interacting in there. Let's change the blend mode to a few different ones here, see which one looks the best. And we can also drop the opacity, don't forget. Green. Overlay looks interesting. Let's zoom back out again. So that kind of lightened some of it up. Certainly changed the contrast. And let's bring this one down a little bit, see if we get a little more light back in. Same thing here. That one's already down quite a bit. But we can, control everything about them because we have them on their own layer. And again, let's go up here. Let's change this one. Double click on Filter Gallery, and let's say we want mosaic tiles. So you see the mosaic tiles in there, and if it's on normal, a lot of tiles are showing. Obviously, that's all of it's tiled at 100%, and then we blend them. Let's go back to Darken, and then this time let's paint some of that away. Let's not do it at 100% though. Still pretty heavy-handed. It's not a bad thing to leave some like cracked paint going on, right? And I could do this slower and do a better job by far with a smaller brush, certainly. That doesn't look too shabby, does it? So here's the assignment. You try these. The images are fun to work on that I've put up here, but you're certainly I'm sure all have your own images that you can experiment with and see what you can come up with. Until next time, bye-bye.